The first thing you want to do when you're making a pinch pot is make the clay into a ball. It doesn't need to be perfect, but it should be a rounded ball that's fairly smooth and doesn't have any cracks in it. I'm right-handed, so I'm going to hold the clay in my left hand and use my right hand to put my thumb into the middle of the ball of clay. I'm pushing it down fairly far. It's not all the way through. And now that leaves my fingers free to do the pinching. The first thing you want to do is keep the thumb in the bottom of the hole that you've made, and then just wrap your hands around and pinch slowly while you turn the piece of clay. So it's a slow pinching motion. And all I'm doing is making a little hole in the center. And I'm pinching around and around until I think I've pinched it evenly. I'm keeping my hand at the bottom. I'm not beginning to move it and pinch too quickly. All I'm doing is going with my thumb and fingers and pinching at the base. Once you've done that, you're going to move your fingers to the middle section of the pinch pot and pinch in the middle. Because what I'm doing is distributing the clay from the bottom and bringing it up to the top evenly. If I was to just focus on the top too quickly, I would leave a lot of clay at the bottom. So by pinching around the base first and then moving to the center, I am slowly bringing up all that clay evenly into the walls. Once your middle section gets pinched fairly evenly around, the last thing you do is pinch the top edge. And it's the same motion. I'm taking my fingers and pinching around and around on the top edge here. And it's going to slowly form into a pinch pot. Now, a couple of things might happen. You might get some cracking around the top edge, and that's completely normal. You might have cracking on the outside surface, and you can get rid of that with a sponge and a little bit of water. But the goal is to create an even width from the base of the pot all the way up to the top. And it should be roughly 1/4 of an inch to a little bit less than 1/2 an inch thick. And the reason we do that is because clay dries fairly quickly. And if it's really thin on the top and super thick on the bottom, it's going to dry and shrink at a different rate, which would cause it to crack. So you want to have it to be even all the way around so it dries and shrinks at the same rate and doesn't crack. The other reason you want it to be fairly thin is because you could tell if there's air bubbles in the clay. And if you have air bubbles trapped into the clay, when I put it into the kiln for it to be fired, the air bubble will force its way out of the piece of clay, and it will cause an explosion in your piece, which will completely destroy it, and hopefully not destroy anybody else's. So if you pinch it really thin, you'll be able to see if there's any air bubbles, and you can pop them with a pin tool. But a couple of things. Once you have your pinch pot created, you can put it down on the table, flatten it a little bit, but what I don't want you to do is start to push down like this, because that's going to create a very flat bottom piece, and it's just going to get wider and wider. You'll also notice that my hands were staying fairly upright. I wasn't flipping them around and pinching like this, because that's going to, again, make something that's too wide, and it'll flatten out into a pancake. So you want to keep your hands fairly straight up and down while you're pinching. And that is your basic pinch pot.